أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله الحجة ابن الحسن فداه أرواح العالمين، واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أبد الآبدين ودهر الداهرين. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. So why we have taqleed and following a scholar, at least in our deeds, at least. If we say that there is no taqleed in aqa'id and belief, because belief in aqa'id you have to understand. That's why the vast majority of our scholars say that you are not allowed to do taqleed and follow someone in things that you have to understand. For instance, I follow this scholar because he says that there is no God, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't say something like that, because Tawheed is something understandable. It's something that you have to understand, you have to comprehend, you have to see, and then follow your knowledge, follow your understanding. That's why when we say taqleed in things that you cannot understand. You're not an expert on that specific field. That's why you have to go and follow someone who's an expert in that field. If you're not an engineer, you need an architect or an engineer to come and build your house, a builder, a professional builder. You cannot just simply build a house out of ignorance, no. You either be an expert or use the knowledge of someone else. If you're not a doctor, you cannot prescribe medicine for yourself, especially when those medicines are dangerous. For instance, chemical therapy, okay? I feel some pain in my stomach. I've took some tablets, painkillers. I couldn't handle it anymore. And it's constantly irritating me, so I'm gonna use chemical therapy. It doesn't work like that. You have to go to an expert, to a GP first, and then probably he may refer you to a specialist, and etc. It's a complicated situation. You cannot just prescribe something heavy medicine for yourself. So this is the idea of taqleed. The idea of taqleed, that you cannot understand the whole religion, and that's why you need to follow someone who is an expert in that field. And wallahi, this is very rational. And those who say, okay, I can go back to our narrations and riwayat, because Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam said that you can follow our riwayat and I can understand what is wajib upon me, and when I have to do what I have to do and what I have to avoid, and then I can follow narrations. No, it doesn't work like that. Can you go to a, let's say, physics book and chemistry book to build an airplane? No, you can't. It's only physics, mathematics, and chemistry. Nothing more. That's it. No, it's not only that. It's very complicated, sophisticated. You need to be an expert. Not a single expert can build an airplane. It's very sophisticated. You need multiple specialists and to be able to build an airplane, especially commercial airplane. So you cannot just simply go back to narrations and say, okay, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, okay, you can do that, or you can avoid that, or this is haram. Okay, I say this is haram, that's it. No, because sometimes even Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam use haram phrase in places that it is makruh, or use wajib phrase. So this is wajib. Ghusl al-jum'ati wajibun. Doing the ghusl of Jum'ah is wajib. So is it wajib? So when scholars see such narration, start to evaluate that narration with other narrations as well. When they say, okay, when somebody comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and asks him about Ghusl al-Jum'ah, he says, can I leave it and avoid doing Ghusl al-Jum'ah? Imam Sadiq says, لا بأس, no problem, لا بأس. So when they come, scholars come to those two types of narration. First of all, they see, okay, probably one of them is because of taqiyya. So لا بأس, because let's say Sunnis don't do Ghusl al-Jum'ah at all. They see it as bid'ah. That's why Imam alayhi salam says لا بأس. So we're gonna go with that wajib. So it is wajib. But sometimes they say, okay, wajib means that Ahlul Bayt wants that to happen. That's why they say wajib. They don't want their followers to leave Ghusl al-Jum'ah. Otherwise, it's not wajib. It's highly recommended. Or sometimes some scholars might say, okay, leaving Ghusl al-Jum'ah, not doing Ghusl al-Jum'ah, might be considered as makruh. So normal people cannot understand that. Those who are not an expert, those who not faqih. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. ما كان للمؤمنين أن ينفروا كافة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان للمؤمنين أن ينفروا كافة فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة. It's impossible for all mu'mineen, all believers, to go and be faqih, be expertise in religion, understanding religion. فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة. So small portion of every nation, of every city, of every community should go and study and then go back and start to preach. فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين. They have to go and understand religion and be an expert on religion. What? Religiosity? Yeah. Be an expert in that field. And then go back to the nation, to the, city, to the group, and start to preach. فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ثم ليرجعوا إلى قومهم. And then they have to go back to their group and they have to preach. لعلهم يحذرون, so they can start. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they understand, oh, okay, this is haram. Okay, for instance, playing chess is haram. Gambling is haram. Drinking alcohol is haram. Once somebody was taken to Imam Ali, the commander of the faithful alayhi salam, in the era of his government, and they said that they saw him drinking alcohol. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, of course, Imam Ali is aqdakum Ali, the most just person on the ground. He said, did you drink alcohol? He said, yes, I drank alcohol. But I was Christian. I just recently converted to Islam. So I didn't know. So how Imam Ali alayhi salam should treat such person? Imam Ali said, okay, take him to the community, not to everyone. You don't need to publish his photo on newspaper, just to the community that he's in touch with, okay, and ask them whether they recited the verse of Tahrim al-Khamr on him or not. إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. If you can find no one reciting that, saying that yes, I recited that verse on him, then just leave him, because he didn't know. Okay, he didn't know. So how we can understand what is haram and what is halal? Through scholars. Yes, sometimes verses are so strong that we have to follow with no doubt, because we can understand that verse. Khamr, getting drunk is haram. But not always we can understand everything. Let me give you an example. Wine, okay, alcohol. Is it haram to get drunk? Yes. إنما الخمر والميسر رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه. You're not allowed to get to get drunk. What about a drop of alcohol? Some might say, okay, a drop of alcohol won't intoxicate you, so why you should avoid that? Okay, my understanding, no problem. You know, some medicines has alcohol, some foods has alcohol as well. No problem. No, it doesn't work like that, because we have narration by our Prophet. When the Prophet ﷺ says, ما كان كثيره مسكر فقليله حرام. Whatever can intoxicate you, a plenty amount of that liquid can intoxicate you, the tiny amount of it is haram as well. So even a drop of wine is haram to drink. Okay? I just want to have the taste in my mouth. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Smelling good aroma, is it haram or not? No, it's halal. Perfumes, but not when you are in the state of ihram. In the state of ihram, you're not allowed to use perfume. And that's a problem. It has kafara. Kafara of sheep, compensation of sheep if you do it deliberately. This is how I can recall it from before. So I cannot understand that. I need to go, if I'm not educated, I need to go to an expert, faqih, mujtahid, so-called, marja nowadays, and ask him the hukum, and he will explain that to me. So those who say, okay, we have Ahlul Bayt, we have narrations of Ahlul Bayt, I do Taqleed of Ahlul Bayt, they are ignorant, because having Ahlul Bayt and narrations won't make you faqih unless if you study. Yes, you want to study, go and study 10, 20 years, 30 years, and you will become a mujtahid, then you can follow your opinion. And of course you have to be a just person as well, a pious person as well. You cannot just simply say, okay, I'll purchase Book of Kafi, I'll purchase Bihar al-Anwar, and I'm gonna read Bihar al-Anwar and become a mujtahid. No, it's like as if you say that I'll purchase books of medicine, and I will go through them, and then I will open my shop to prescribe, or medical center to prescribe medicines to people. It doesn't work like that. As if someone says, okay, I will climb the minbar and do the fatwa and deliver the verdict because I've read Bahar al-Anwar once. It's not only about reading Bahar al-Anwar or Wasa'il al-Shia or books of Sheikh al-Saduq or books of Sheikh al-Mufid. No, you have to study. You have to study. You have to learn. You cannot try yourself. That's why I think it's very, very obvious, and we don't need to prove that, to be honest, that we need maraja, we need scholars to follow. Do we have any evidence that can prove this idea, this theology to us? Of course, the verse itself. And too many other verses when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about scholars. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. Of course, some of those verses are about Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, those who gain knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly or through the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, like the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he received the knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by miracle. And all sects narrate that the Prophet taught Imam Ali 1,000 doors of knowledge, and Imam Ali was able to open through each one of them 1,000 doors of knowledge. So 1,000,000 doors of knowledge. We don't have 1,000,000 doors of knowledge nowadays. Too many fields, but not 1,000,000 doors of knowledge. Definitely not. So what I'm trying to say, you can find verses. And of course we have too many narrations as well. Such as when Imam alayhi salam told Aban ibn Taqleed, one of his companions, great companions, that I'd like you to sit in the mosque, اجلس في المسجد وأفتي الناس إني أحب أن يرى مثلك يفتي الناس. sit in the mosque and deliver verdict. Aftin nas. Give fatwa. I'd like people like you to be seen taking that responsibility. Or somebody came to Imam Rida alayhi salam and told him, Zakariya ibn Adam thiqatun akhudhu anhu ma'alim dini. Is Zakariya ibn Adam, one of Imam Rida's companions, thiqa, that somebody, trustworthy person, knowledgeable. Thiqa means here trustworthy in what? In understanding religion. Not trustworthy in not deliberately lying. No, trustworthy. ثقة آخذ عنه معالم ديني. Imam alayhi salam replied, نعم زكريا ibn Adam ثقة خذ عنه معالم دينك. Learn of him. Take fatwa of him. Or the another narration that Imam alayhi salam says, العمري وابنه ثقتاي فما أديا فعني وأديان. The person called Amri and his son are trustworthy people. So whatever they say, it will be considered as my saying. So al-Amri wa ibnuhu thaqatan. Another verses, another narration talks about other types of narration. When Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam say that man afta an-nas bighayri ilm, whoever delivers a fatwa without being knowledgeable, he will be judged in the day of judgment, of course, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's justice, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish him. In other words, there is nothing wrong with delivering fatwa while you have the knowledge. Fatwa means prescribing. This is exactly the meaning of fatwa. Prescribing, what should you do? Whether it's medicine, whether it's acts, deeds, and etc. So if Imam alayhi salam says that you're not allowed to deliver fatwa without knowledge, it means, in other words, you're allowed to deliver fatwa with knowledge. If you're a knowledgeable person, if you're an expert, and people are allowed to follow you. And that's it. So, Ahlul Bayt themselves, while they were living with their nations, used to refer some people to some of their companions, because it would have been very hard for everyone to reach Imam. So how should they gain the knowledge, what they need? Ahlul Bayt used to refer them to Zurara, to Abu Basir, to Aban ibn Taqleed, to Zakariya ibn Adam, and etc. Go to them and they will teach you. Somebody said, yes, I've married a lady with this description. And he came to, I think, it was Muhammad ibn Muslim. He said, okay, because sometimes when you marry someone and you see, okay, her description is not as you expected, that would be considered as what? As a problem, because they had to tell you about this situation. And he came to Muhammad ibn Muslim, he said, okay, what should I do? And then Muhammad ibn Muslim did an istinbat, derived information of Imam alayhi salam's narration. He said, I haven't heard something about that of Imam Sadiq. However, what I've heard, whatever is not considered as normal, that situation should be discussed. And this is not normal. So he didn't hear specifically about that, okay? But that's not normal, that's abnormal. With very long nose, let's say, a lady. They have, it's longer than usual. Wow, that's a very big nose. So that should be discussed. This is not, this is not very normal. Or a lady, her hair starts from her forehead. So in the middle of forehead, her hair starts. So very small forehead she has. So probably that should be discussed. in accordance to the understanding of Muhammad ibn Muslim. So I'm not saying that I'm going to follow Muhammad ibn Muslim, but what I'm telling you, Muhammad ibn Muslim delivered his verdict. So the narration itself, if we go to that narration, probably as normal people we cannot understand. But Muhammad ibn Muslim applied that narration on that situation and derived information of it. This is called istinbat. And I think this is very, very obvious. So, following a scholar, when you cannot understand what should you do, is something very logical and rational. And also we have verses and narrations pushing us towards that field. Follow a scholar. Okay. Somebody came to Imam Al-Hasan Al-Askari, salamullahi alayhi, and told him Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned rabbis in Quran and condemns their followers. Why? Because their followers used to follow the scholars and rabbis. And he told Imam alayhi salam, so what is the difference between us that we follow scholars and them when they follow their scholars as well? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned them? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might be condemning us as well. Imam alayhi salam said, you are making a point, but it's not that correct. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned followers of those rabbis because they saw that those rabbis committing sins and lying are not pious people. Yet they followed them. That's why they were condemned. And if you do so as well, so if you see a scholar committing sins deliberately, lying deliberately, even if he's a scholar, you're not allowed to follow him at all. And he will be condemned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is condemning their following in general. No. He condemned them specifically because they found that their leaders and their scholars were sinful people. Let me see if I can find the narration. Yeah. So Imam said, as Islam, it's a long narration. So this is the gist of that narration. Imam alayhi salam told him, yes, you're right, but only if you find your scholars sinful people who commit sins deliberately and lie deliberately, then you are not allowed to follow them. But that doesn't mean that you are not allowed to follow scholars who are pious. And then Imam alayhi salam says, نعم من كان من فقهاء فأما من كان من الفقهاء صائنا لنفسه حافظا لدينه مخالفا لهواه مطيعا لأمر مولاه فللعوام أن يقلدوه. Who should we follow? من كان من الفقهاء صائنا لنفسه, protects himself, preserves his religion. مخالفا لهواه, he goes against his desires and he follows the orders of معصومين عليهم السلام. مطيعا لأمر مولاه, then our Shia should follow him. Not whoever claims that he is knowledgeable. Yeah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله. They considered their priests and rabbis gods Yes, even if they make mistake, commit sins, we'll follow them. Even if Muawiyah makes mistake. Yes, he's a Sahaba of the Prophet and we're going to follow him. Yazid is a Tabi'i, we're not going to say La'natullah alayhi. We're going to say La'natullah ala al-Zalimeen in general because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might, what? Might treat him with his mercy. This is the logic that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is condemning in this verse. Yes, even if this priest or this scholar, yeah, this is a scholar. Why? He's a sinful scholar. We're not going to follow a sinful scholar. We're not going to consider him as God. We're not going to consider him as ma'soom. And that's why we're not going to follow someone who we see or whom we see that what? He commits sins deliberately. So in general, Taqleed is a rational action for every field. And religion is not an exemption. But who you should do taqleed of? Someone who is pious. Someone who knows. So only if he's pious? No, it's not enough. He should be knowledgeable and pious. Otherwise, you're not allowed to do taqleed at all. In another narration, some of Ahlul Bayt's companions told Ahlul Bayt, told Imam Sadiq, sometimes we get trapped in a dispute. So every party goes to a scholar. So one scholar says, okay, haqq is with you. The other scholar say, no, haqq is with you. So this is contradictions. What should we do? They came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam alayhi salam said, ينظر إلى أفقههما وأعلمهما بأحاديثنا وأورعهما فينفذ حكمه ولا يلتفت إلى الآخر. See which one is more knowledgeable. And you have to take the saying of the most knowledgeable and pious person. And the one who knows our ahadith better. أفقههما وأعلمهما بأحاديثنا. So if someone who's not even seen all of Ahlul Bayt's narrations even once in his life, can he follow himself? No. At all. Rather, he has to go and follow scholars. So I think that should be enough to start because, of course, there are some other topics that we have to mention in Marja'iyah, because Marja'iyah is not only about Taqleed and what is halal and what is haram. Let me give you some other examples. Playing with chess and gambling with chess definitely is haram. What about if someone plays with chess and shatranj but without gambling? Some might say, okay, no problem with that. As some scholars say that. Limited scholars. But some other scholars say that Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam didn't say that playing with chess and gambling, didn't say that gambling with chess. Rather they say playing لعب الشطرنج. Only playing with chess is haram. So probably playing with chess is haram, regardless of gambling. So we don't know. So see, sometimes we cannot understand the hukum. That's why you have to go to scholars. Some narrations are obvious. Okay, salat is wajib. We know that. This is darura. This is necessity that no one can deny. Even if a scholar says that salat is not wajib, we're going to say you're not a proper scholar or you're not a pious scholar. You're either ignorant or sinful person. Hypocrites. So some narrations, some verses we understand because it's darura. Hajj is wajib. Nikah is mustahab, for instance. But sometimes we cannot understand. Really, we cannot understand. Okay, usury and riba. It's haram. إن الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا نعم يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. They would be like someone who gets a proper slap of shaitan. They would get that dizzy. Okay, what about borrowing money off banks? So it's different. Scholars say whether that bank is an Islamic bank or non-Islamic bank, government bank or private bank. It's different, all different. So it's not that simple to say, okay, borrowing money. Okay, I've seen some people take money to some scholars, say, okay, this is zakat al-fitra. And the scholar asked, that great scholar asked, okay, this is zakat al-fitra for Sayyid or non-Sayyid? He said, I don't know. Then that scholar said, I'm not going to take it. You have to specify. It's not only zakat, because he need to use it in the proper situation. Because if it's say zakat al-fitra of non-Sayyid, he cannot give it to a Sayyid. So he said, I'm not going to take it. It's shubha, I'm not going to take it. So it's very, very accurate sometimes. And who can understand all of those details? Those who are knowledgeable people. So definitely we need knowledgeable people to follow. But marja'iyya is greater than that, because marja'iyya is about what also? About qada, solving disputes, and also about war and peace, about government. So it's very, very huge. Of course, if we get the chance to talk, probably after Ashrat Ashura, we'll talk about that inshallah. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين.